Yeah, well, as a youngster, man, like obviously I was a PK kid, but I was up to no good, man. One of our friends, his older brother, we were at a house party, and his older brother came to the house and said, "Oh, these guys just." Can't remember if he said they shot at him or pulled a knife at him. But I want to say it was like pulled a knife out at him and his friends, and they were at like a house party. I had to have been like 15 or 16 at the time. We were like, "Oh, that's not gonna happen," you know. And I remember us going to the house, man, and like imagine like Cuna, you know, like houses in the middle of nowhere, you know, like fields and stuff. And we pulled up to this house. There was like, I bet like 11, 12, 13 cars. We all get out of the car and we're going in there to kind of, I don't know what the hell we were going to do, but we were going to tell them like they couldn't do that. And I remember seeing the door. It was like pitch black. I see the silhouette of the door open up, and like a dude comes out, and then another dude comes out, and you just hear like a shotgun.
All right, welcome back to the Rain Brings Growth podcast. I'm your host, Matt Sidwell. I'm here with Dago Martinez. How's it going, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, dude. I've been following all your fitness and everything, just been reworking since you broke the collarbone now, huh?
Yeah, it's been about 16 months, 16 months when I broke my, actually, I tore my rotator cuff. My collarbone, I snapped it about 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago, but I messed up my shoulder doing that too.
Was it the same shoulder?
No, it's a different one.
Oh.
Yeah. So my left shoulder is the one that I messed it up. I tore my rotator cuff. I had a detachment in the rear, a tear on the right, and then a tear on the front. And I was just bench pressing, wasn't even doing heavy stuff at the time. And
Define heavy for you though.
No, so at the time we were grinding. I was working out with some younger kids, and I say kids, they weren't kids, they were like early 30s, but yeah. I'm an old man now, and we were pushing like 365, and I was weighing about 197, so that was pretty good. And I mean, we weren't taking anything other than your normal pre-workout protein, you know, and doing 365 like belt stuff, and it was good. And then one day I was just like, I'm just gonna go kind of light, and I threw 245s on there to kind of warm up, and I did one, and on the second one down, like I felt like a rubber band just snapped.
Oh, geez.
And I was like, that didn't feel good. And nothing hurt, but I was like, that was weird. So, and a guy can kind of see that I was like off. He's like, "Hey, you need help?" I was like, "Yeah, we help me get this off." And he helped me lift it up. And I lay there for a little bit and was just kind of like, everything feels all right. But obviously I felt like a rubber band snap. So I knew something was wrong. And stayed at the gym, kind of walked around for a little bit, trying to pretend like everything was good. And I was like, "Nah, I'm not good." So then I went home and told the wife kind of what happened, and I text one of my buddies that had been working out, and he's like, "Dude," he's like, we're crushing way more weight than that. It's like, I know, like I don't know what happened, and I waited exactly 6 weeks to go get checked, and it was crazy because I was getting better, and like since I had my right rotator cuff injury with the ATV accident where I broke my collarbone, I was used to like the physical therapy, so I was just grinding on this one, doing physical therapy, and everything felt like it was getting good, but my mobility to raise my arm up wasn't there. So I was like, something's wrong, obviously. And went and got checked in on a Thursday, and the doc looked at it, and he's like, "Yeah, you need to go surgery pretty quick." And kind of scared me because he's like, you're gonna be my first one on Monday. It's like, oh shoot. So from Thursday to Monday, I went in on Monday, and he said that he was kind of worried because I had been like moving it and stuff and just kind of being normal with it. And he's like, "It looks pretty bad." And my rear detachment, he's kind of explained to me like you'd see like a pool of blood, and it would like dry, like a darkness. And he's like, "You don't have that there." He's like, "So that's a pretty old injury if you're being honest with me on how you hurt yourself." And I was like, "Well, I don't need to lie to you about it." So he was worried that I would end up like tearing or detaching some of the other ones. And then it would kind of go underneath the muscle, and you'd have to look for it or something like that, the way he was explaining to me. And I was like freaking out, but thankfully everything kind of worked out. Yeah.
So how long was the actual rehab for that then?
So I was in a sling for almost a little over 6 weeks after surgery. So that sucked. And then physical therapy, the rehab for that I was doing was it was almost 10 weeks, 11 weeks. After surgery, and then I stopped going just because everything I was doing I felt like I could do at home, and I was just kind of going paying my $20 every time I'd go in, you know, and stuff. And so I just kept doing what I was doing at home, and then just trying to. Thankfully, I'm older and wiser, so I wasn't really pushing it and letting my pride, my ego kind of kick in and stuff. I felt if I would have been younger, I probably would have injured it, you know, or kind of hurt it or done something to it. But so that's where I'm at. And the post recovery for it is 18 months, they said. But yeah, last couple of weeks, like 2 to 3 weeks, I've definitely felt like, okay, like I can definitely push without like mentally being scared that something's going to happen, you know. But I'm still thankful because I'm still like starting out super light, still doing my physical therapy, even though like maybe I don't need it. But I'm just going through those exercises. So my workouts typically take longer because I start out with like a full session of physical therapy for both shoulders. So just kind of keep this one feeling good. This one sometimes seems to bother me now, where this one feels pretty good. So my left one's the most recent injury. But
yeah, you were still grinding it out too when you were just doing physical therapy. You were still just going to the gym and like just keeping that routine too. Yeah, that was pretty cool to see. Yeah, I mean, you're just doing like your band stuff or whatever, but still every day grinding it out.
Yeah, man. I like mentally, like it was killing me not to be able to go, just because that's my addiction. You know, was going to the gym and stuff, and so I was like, man, I gotta go and stuff. And it's crazy how quick your body physically changes. So like just seeing and where I was at to when I was in my sling, I was like, man, I got to get back in there. So mentally, it was hard. But yeah, I was just trying to stay active, you know, do something. I was definitely hitting the legs quite a bit more. So that was probably like the strongest my legs have ever been for a little bit, you know. And I was even before when I got hurt, we were lifting pretty heavy, but like they felt strong all the way around versus like just like strong for a couple sets, you know, to be able to lift a heavy weight kind of at the gym, like a gym session. But
yeah, I think that's a cool mindset to have, is just to be able to focus on what you can do instead of what you can't do.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if a lot of people would just do that, like capitalize on what you can do. Don't worry about what you can't control.
Yeah.
Like your legs probably got freaking huge, huh?
Yeah, no, they didn't get like really massive. They were definitely toned out quite a bit, but they were strong. It was crazy because I felt like they were bigger before, but they were really strong. I could tell they were really strong. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, man, for me, it was like a mental thing. Like I just got to get back into it. I definitely believe if you don't use it, you lose it. You know what I mean? And fluid is motion. So like I knew like I'm working on my foundation. If I just sit down and watch TV or watch a bunch of shows on TV, like I'm not really doing anything. So yeah, I would try to go. And even like when I couldn't go to the gym because I had a sling on, or like just walking or running would kind of hurt sometimes. I'd just walk around the subdivision and I'd do like 6 miles, you know, and just by myself and stuff. And it sucked because it was like right around summertime.
Yeah.
So like, you know, you want to be outside and doing stuff like that. So, and then having that sling just sucked. But yeah.
Has fitness always been like a big thing in your life ever since childhood, or something you just kind of acquired later on?
No, later on in life, I actually know specifically right when for me, like the light switch hit, where as far as like, I wanted to start working out, or I guess being more active and stuff. And I've always done like a little bit. We boxed a little bit in high school. I tried wrestling, got my ass handed to me, and didn't like it. Gave up, which I wish I hadn't. But now it really wasn't like part of my life kind of growing up. But there was a time, and I don't remember how long ago, but it was 15, 16 years ago, easy. I wasn't like, obviously I wasn't working out, eating, you know, drinking and stuff like that. And me and my wife were like rolling around, messing around and stuff. And I laid on top of her and she looked at me. She's like, holy shit. And I don't know if she said holy shit, but she was like, you're heavy. And like, I took that as her, like what I heard her say was like, you're fat. And I was like, what the hell? And I used to live over there by Taffy at the time. And for me, it was like, there was something in me that was like, damn, she just called me fat, you know? And ever since then, like I started going to the gym, and then I did like MMA for a little bit. I trained with the team called Team Onslaught, and I got into it. I have kind of like that addictive personality. So like once I was in it, like I was in it and stuff, and I was rolling, and I'd ride my bike to the gym, and it was like 8 miles, or I'd run, or have someone drop me off, and then force me to run back and stuff. So like I was super cut, super lean and stuff like that. But that was kind of for me, the light switch was like, always been working out. And then ever since then, like some stuff kind of went bad with the gym that I was at. And then, I still worked out and stuff, and, was just like, I'm just going to focus on kind of getting in shape and staying in shape, like that. But, yeah, that was kind of for me, the light switch, where it was like, dang, she just called me fat. Yeah. Yeah.
So what was your childhood like then?
Honestly, so, I'm pretty blessed, man. I grew up with both parents. My parents, I grew up a PK, so a pastor's kid. Like my mom and my dad always there, my dad was an entrepreneur pretty much all his life. Like from my grandpa, he was an entrepreneur, but we had a bunch of different, businesses pretty much growing up. And then, when he came to the United States, he had the businesses, but he worked at Simplot, and then he opened up a barbershop. Well, he worked with a barbershop, and then he eventually bought it and had that. And I grew up in Burley, Rupert area, and there's a spot in Rupert called the Wilson Theater, and it's a pretty big, like, famous historical site. It's called Wilson Theater. My dad had like the barbershop there, and then eventually bought that building, and it was like a big historical site. And from a kid up to when I left, when I was in high school, we had a jewelry store. My mom had, for pretty much the whole time we were there, she had like a Mexican import store. And probably I don't know for a fact, but I'd be willing to bet one of the first, if not one of the first few in Idaho as far as Mexican stores. And but we had a jewelry store, we had a travel agency, clothing store. My dad always had his barbershop, restaurant. We had an arcade and stuff like that. So growing up, like that was our hustle. Like my dad would, like, if we wanted to stay the night somewhere, it's like, yeah, you could stay the night, and at 7:00 in the morning, you'd hear a honk, and he'd pick us up, and we'd go to work, with him and stuff. And me and my sister, I'm the youngest of six, but me and my sister, we were really the ones that kind of worked in the stores and the businesses more. My sister probably even more than I did, because I was still able, kind of being the baby boy, I could still kind of slack off a little bit. But yeah, that's kind of what we were surrounded with as far as like growing up and stuff in the Burley, Rupert area and stuff. Yeah.
Dang, that's sweet. What was your main responsibilities helping your dad out?
Honestly, it was just being there. Like, if you're there if you're there, like whatever needs to get done, you just got to do it. And like, it wasn't one of those things, like, I think just growing up, probably maybe in your times too, like you weren't like, hey, I need your help with taking out the trash. You seen the trash was full, you need to go take out the trash. So, a lot of the times I would just kind of clean up the barbershop without being asked, like clean up the barbershop, or as he's cutting hair, do that, help my mom stock stuff at the store, go back and forth, just kind of doing whatever needed to be done and stuff like that. And sometimes there wasn't like anything that needed to be done, and I'd just kind of sit there. And as a kid, I had a couple hustles, like obviously being around that time, that atmosphere with my parents. I had a shoe shining little business, like in a little corner. I had that for a little while. And then my dad, being in that area so long, people would ask him like, hey, do you know anyone that can help do this? And sometimes, depending on what it is, he'd be like, hey, my boy can do it and stuff. So I did a lot of cool little things, like entrepreneur stuff when I was young, because my dad like, hey, you can have this guy do it and stuff, or he'll go do it for you. So kind of go do some stuff like that.
So, I mean, you just grew up around all this entrepreneur stuff. You didn't know, it wasn't really an option, right?
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't an option. It was kind of like I said, I remember like staying at friend's house, and then 7:00 in the morning, hearing a honk, and everyone like, get up, man, like your parents are here. And we'd be up all night, having fun or doing whatever we were doing. And then I'd have to get up, go to work, super tired, not go to work, but go with my parents and be super tired. And then eventually it'd be fine, because we're out there doing stuff. We're helping my parents and doing stuff like that. But yeah, I've been around it my whole life.
So your dad had multiple jobs, plus he was a pastor.
Yeah. And he had the church, pretty much. So I wanted to say probably when I was 11 or 12, maybe even 10, he ended up opening his own church, but we grew up in church. But yeah, 10 or 11, he ended up opening his own church in that Wilson Theater. They had instead of my dad did the theater for a little bit, and eventually he was trying to do like movies for the Hispanic community, and their market just wasn't there. And eventually he closed it down, and it was closed for a little bit, and then he ended up opening up a church there, and pretty much has had a church ever since, and help establish some churches in Mexico and even here in Idaho and Washington and Utah.
Oh, that's cool. Have you gone down to Mexico and helped out with those?
Yeah, well, when I was younger, it was kind of like same thing. Like part of what we did. Like, grew up in Burley and Rupert, and like every year we'd go down to Mexico and we'd go to visit family. But it was also my dad would do minister work and stuff. So we'd on the way there, sometimes we'd go straight and visit family, and then while we were there, things would kind of pop up, and my dad would kind of have like a best way to describe it's kind of like a revival thing. 2 or 3 days where they'd kind of do a church thing. Sometimes on the way there, like he'd get opportunities or people would ask him like ahead of time, and then we'd go there. And we helped build a church in Hermosillo, Mexico when we were young and stuff. So it's funny because me and the wife were just talking about this about 2 weeks ago when we were at Rock Harbor. They were talking about building a church, and I was like, I totally spaced it, but it's like we helped build a church in Hermosillo. And my wife's like, really? Like, been with my wife forever, and she didn't know that, and I had honestly totally kind of spaced it and stuff. And but yeah, so we helped build a church financially really is what we did. And then at the beginning, like the open house, we were there when that happened, when the open house was, and we spent some time there, like 2 or 3 weeks. Specifically a memory that I have where we were there for like 2 or 3 weeks, and my dad had kind of like a revival church between the church that they helped build and then the church we were at. And there was also like a smaller community. Like in Mexico, it's pretty typical to see, like if you go, you'll see like the urban kind of what we're kind of used to seeing, and then you can see different levels of poverty. And there's this part of Hermosillo that was kind of like almost like a subdivision, but it's like the poorest of the poorest people, and they live like in shacks. Some of them made out of mud, some just made out of scraps and stuff like that. And my dad would go there and he'd kind of preach, and we always would. Every year, my dad always had a van, so we'd load up the van with either like rice, beans, bunch of clothes and stuff like that. And my dad would take it down there, and he'd usually give it away or give it to a church and stuff like that. So yeah, those are my memories kind of growing up, but being around that stuff. Yeah.
Were you in sports too growing up?
No, not really, man. I was kind of a knucklehead, being a PK's kid, but I was kind of a knucklehead. Like I still had to go to church. I had to be with my parents and stuff like that, but I was too busy like chasing girls, really. That's what I was doing. And then thinking, just kind of hanging around, like not necessarily the wrong crowd, because it wasn't necessarily compared to like apples what we have now. It wasn't necessarily a wrong crowd, like a real bad crowd. It just wasn't the crowd that you expect like a pastor's kid to be around and stuff.
Or a rebellious crowd.
Yeah. We did a lot of stupid stuff, a lot of stuff that I probably would have got me into prison and could have got me into prison and stuff like that. One of my best friends, I've shared this story before, like even as a testimony through people, just like God looking over my life, was one of my best friends. I knew he like sold meth and crack and stuff like that, but he was older than me by probably like by 2 years, but like I don't like, it wasn't no big deal. Like it wasn't like we had a big carload full of it, he just every once in a while had a little baggie, like, hey, can you stop here? And I'd see him pull a little thing out, and he'd go and someone would give him money, and it was just kind of normal. It wasn't like a big deal. Like didn't see the harm of it and stuff. But when I graduated high school, like I think within 2 weeks when I graduated high school, I moved up to Boise, and within those 2 weeks, like there was a big old raid on his house by the feds and stuff. And I always like, man, I would have been at that house at that time, and I never like had drugs on me. I never purchased drugs, like even growing up and stuff.
Yeah.
But I would have been there at the house. Like that could have impacted me, like as far as my future and stuff like that. So I definitely believe like my mom's prayers and, just kind of like God was looking out for me, because I would have been there, and my buddy's dad went to prison, and eventually my buddy and his brother, they went to federal prisons and stuff, and did a little stint and stuff, because they were obviously around that stuff, involved in it and stuff. But it's crazy. Like I didn't realize I didn't realize how much was going on at a house where like I spent a lot of time at, like, and I don't know if it was just because I was younger, I wasn't paying attention, or if it was just like super sleek, you know. But yeah, man, it was, like I said, it was like 2 weeks, and I could have been there at the house when that happened. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's weird to look at the correlation between like a kid that grows up in that and then what happens with his life. And then you grow up around entrepreneurs, pastor's kid, like you're around the right things. It's crazy to think like you are your environment, right?
Yeah.
So you got to either get away or.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Even when I first moved up to Boise, like obviously like I always talk about like judging a book by its cover, you know, and even to now, like you can still kind of judge a book by the cover, because I obviously don't look like I work for the Department of Corrections. You know, I don't look like my cover looks different than my book. But like even when I first moved to Boise, you know, I could have easily got caught into like, you know, if someone was like thinking I was a gang member or something like that, because I had the look, the appearance that was someone who was active would have maybe hit me up and stuff like that, you know. So, but yeah, that's just part of growth, you know, growing up and being like, you know, that was really like just decisions I was making as a young man, like just being part of that culture and stuff. And like as I've gotten older, I've learned that like some of my friends and some of the people that I was around, like it's the difference. Like I had a choice, and I made the choice to kind of to look like that, to, you know, to be around that stuff, where some of them, they didn't, you know, that's just kind of what they were born into, and what was surrounding them and stuff. So it's pretty crazy.
A lot of those guys that got in trouble, your friends, did they have a big father presence in their life, or is it a lot more of?
Honestly, like the ones that went to jail and did some serious fed time, they had their dad there, dude. It's really? It's pretty crazy, because I know normally like it's, you know, you don't have a father figure, and some of the guys that didn't have their dad, you know, they were in the mix or did some stuff, but they were able to dodge some bullets really in life, and they're doing real good, and they're grinding and either have, you know, dealerships, or they're just entrepreneurs now, or they're working real hard, and they're not part of that lifestyle anymore, you know, and dodge that bullet. Yeah. So
in your like that area down there, the culture, was it pretty much just like hustling all the time? It's not like you don't have a lot of people with just 9-to-5 jobs. Like it's constant hustle culture.
Yeah. So it's a big agriculture area. So like a lot of farm work and stuff like that. There were even at the time. Right now it's grown quite a bit, but there were businesses and stuff like that. But it was really, most of it was agriculture. You know what I mean? And obviously there was restaurants and businesses and stuff like that for folks. But like if you're moving to that area, you were typically working around agriculture. And my dad's been a city boy even growing up. And my mom was more of a indigenous native to like the parts of Mexico where we are from. And but my dad's always been around business. So like he was a city boy. So going in there, like he was never working in the fields or doing anything like that. He was always looking at like, how can I provide services to those people? So, and that's kind of where he was at. Like, you know, he'd open up things for services for those people. And even my dad just turned 80, and like even to this day, like he's kind of like a point of contact for a lot of folks in the community there in Rupert. And on both sides, like he's real good friends with judges, like law enforcement, attorneys and stuff. And then obviously like the Hispanic culture that's there, they'll reach out to him. So he's kind of a middleman for folks. And even at the age of 80, like he stays super busy doing that, just because that's what he's been doing for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What made you want to move up to Boise?
Honestly, man, like I knew I wanted something bigger than that area. Like growing up, like I said, I grew up in Burley and Rupert, but growing up, like we spent a lot of time in different places and stuff. And I don't even understand it. Like, you know, my wife tries to have me explain to her. She's like, how were you out of school for so long and still like you're just continue your education and stuff? And I'm like, I don't even know, to be honest with you. But like we'd be gone at least a month at a time. And I have specific memories. Like I spent like a solid like 2 months, and if or not even maybe even longer, like 3 months in like Park, Arizona. Like we were going to Mexico, and I remember our car either broke down going there or broke down coming back. And my dad did what he knows how to do, and he ended up opening up a barbershop in Quartzsite, Arizona. And he had a friend that lived in Park, Arizona. And that was like, if I remember right, like a half hour away. And then I ended up going to school. There's a town there. I can't remember what it is. But I remember going to school, and it was like an elementary school. And I just, like me, my sister, my mom, my dad, we lived there for like, I want to say it was like 3 months. And maybe it was like just a month, but we did that. Like that was something that we did, you know. And we'd go to Mexico for a month and stuff like that. So I don't know how we, like, I still, like, when I think about it, I'm like, I don't know how we kept going to school and stuff like that, you know, without interruption. But that was kind of I think a bigger thing, because obviously like the migrants used to do that. They used to bounce around, go to school and stuff. So I think we just kind of fell into that.
So were you still enrolled in Burley, and then you were also enrolled in Arizona?
Yeah. I don't even know how that works, but yeah, I just kind of come back to Idaho and then just show up to school like normal. Like my parents, I do have some memories where my parents would show up like, hey, we's back, you know, and maybe doing some paperwork in the office that I can kind of remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, then I just go back to school, and that ended up slowing down and kind of stopping when I was like 14, and when I could be like, I don't want to go, and my parents would be like, well, you got to go, or who are you going to stay here with? And I'd stay. She wasn't an aunt by blood, but a family member, a friend, and she was considered my aunt. I'd stay with her. And
Tia?
Tia, yeah. And then I had an older sister, and I'd eventually kind of stay with her. And then obviously as I got older, my parents would still go. Me and my sister would stay, and my sister would kind of run the businesses, and I would kind of help out with the businesses. I was out kind of messing around or running amok, and then just kind of come to the house and stuff like that, and go visit my sister and kind of check in with them. So when my parents would be like, hey, how's everything going? Like, oh, you know, they could say they seen me and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, my buddy, he used to live with his aunt for a while, and I never put it together that like aunt means, or Tia means aunt, right? So I would always just be like, I'd always say, hey, what's up, Aunt Tia? And she's like, finally she corrected me. She's like, you know, it's just aunt, right?
Yeah.
I was like, I thought your name was Tia.
Oh, that's funny.
She's like, no.
Yeah.
She's from Burley too, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Terry Gomez. Yeah. That's crazy. So what were you doing when you came up to Boise then?
Oh, so I got, so when I was a super senior, obviously, because I was out doing silly stuff. So I went to school an extra year, and that last year of my super senior, like I was only going to school like half a day, and then I was working, and I worked at a spot called IMCO, and we built trailer manufacturers. So we built trailers from scratch. And then in the evening times, I would go clean Smith's store, like kind of an Albertsons. I'd go clean it, and I'd wax their floors and do that stuff. And eventually I just started doing the stores because it was paying pretty good. And the guy that ran that one, he had asked me, he's like, hey, you want your own store, man? And I was like, well, what's it like? You know, and I don't remember what he told me, but I remember the money was good. And I was like, hell yeah, I want my own store. So he's like, I'm going to have one in Boise open up. I have a guy, and he's not doing a good job. You want to take it? And I remember him asking me, and I was like, heck yeah, I want to take it. And I thought like, I wanted to get out of like Burley Rupert area. I wanted something bigger. Didn't know really what. Like I think at the time I probably only liked Vision, Twin Falls. But when Boise kind of popped up, I was like, oh yeah, I'll take it, you know? So I came up here and was like, yeah, I'm here, man. Like, and he's like, okay, give me like 2-3 weeks and I'll get you into the store. You know, I got to get rid of this guy. And just kind of being always like wanting to work and always just working and stuff. Like, I was like, okay, I need money. Like, I need to have a job. So I went and looked for a job. And I always had it too, like in my heart, like, and the goals, like I wanted to do something in law enforcement, which is weird because I kind of grew up like not necessarily against law enforcement, but just being a knucklehead, you know. But I wanted to do something in law enforcement. So I was talking to somebody, and they're like, hey, have you checked out this? It's called a correctional officer. And they're like, that'd be a good introduction. And my goal was to go to BSU, like to try to go do law enforcement, get a law enforcement degree. And like, that'd be a good introduction for you until you get into school. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll check it out. So I applied for that. And I applied for that and got hired on pretty quick. And then I think it was way past the 3 weeks that the guy had told me. It was like 2 to 3 months. And he's like, hey, I got your store ready. And I was like, dude, I'm already working. I'm like, I don't even want the store. And at the time, when I was working, I was making $10.26 an hour, but I thought I was balling out of control. I'm like, yeah, I'm good, man. I'm making good money, you know, but yeah. So then that's what kind of brought me to Boise and stuff. And my wife's from Burley Rupert area as well. And, when I came up here, I told her to come up here and, got her like her own apartment. Then I had my own apartment. So yeah. So that's kind of how when I came up here.
When'd you meet your wife?
We met. So she's actually older than me, but we met through a mutual friend. So the first time we met, I think I was like 15. No, I think I was 14 because she gave me a ride. I worked at a restaurant with one of her best friends, and I was a dishwasher. And she, her friend Veronica was like, "Hey, can you give him a ride?" And she remembers me specifically just being this little kid with headphones on and, you know, a cassette player or a DVD or a Discman, and give me a ride. She's like, and that was the first time we kind of met. But obviously I didn't notice her, or we didn't pay attention to each other, but that was the first time we met. And then my friends were friends with her, that Veronica girl, and one of my best friends ended up getting hooking up with her and had a kid with her friend Veronica. And I just kind of I always kind of liked my wife and stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna try to holler at her, but she was older than me. I was still in high school at the time, and she was just like didn't want to give me a chance, you know, whatsoever and stuff. And so that's where I met her. I met her in Burley, and then she gave me a chance. If you ask her, she says I had asked her to go see a movie. I'm having a brain fart as far as the movie, but she's like, it's just one movie. I'm not going to marry the guy. I'm not going to marry the kid. And then here we are, you know, we've been married 22 years, man. Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah. A long time.
How old were you when she moved in with you? 19? Like right out of high school?
So she was 19. I was 16 when we first started dating.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Cause I was still in high school, and she had already been out of high school like for 1 year and stuff. And then when I was 18, I came up here, and I was up here for only a couple weeks. And then she came up here after me. Yeah.
So you guys are high school sweethearts then?
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
That's cool, man. I've been with my wife since I was in junior in high school too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's nuts.
Yeah.
So then you started in corrections like 19 then?
Yeah. So you could back in that time, you could apply for at 18.
Okay.
So I actually applied at 18, and I got hired on. I was still 18 when I got hired on, but so I applied for, at the time I didn't know the difference. So I applied for like 2 corrections positions. One was for the state, and then one was for CCA, is the private prison. I didn't know at the time, like there was a difference. I just was like, oh, different positions or whatever, but I had applied for both of them, and CCA was on it. Like they called, and I think within like 2 weeks, like I was ready to go. Like, hey, come sit down. Like you'll just kind of do some job shadowing and you start getting paid. And I think it was like 6 months later, DLC, Department of Corrections, called me like, hey, do you want an interview? I'm like, you guys already hired me. And they're like, what? And I still didn't like understand the difference, you know? And like, oh, congratulations, you know, welcome to the team and stuff. And then like, cool, we'll take you off the list, you know? And like, then obviously a couple of years down the road, like I'm understanding like, oh, okay, this is private side of prison, and this is, you know, state ran prison and stuff like that. But yeah, I got hired on in corrections, but on the private side of corrections.
So when you were envisioning going into law enforcement, were you wanting to do corrections, or were you thinking more like street stuff, or what?
No, I wanted to be a street cop. So I wanted to be a street cop. I knew for sure, like that was my goal. Like I wanted to be a street cop. As I got like around stuff, and I kind of seen like my dad has always been like influential as far as the community, like always been a point of contact and been able to kind of be a middleman for folks. I believe like that's kind of where kind of like that like goal as far as like, I want to be a street cop came from. And wanted to be a street cop, and I was doing corrections for probably like 2 or 3 years, and I had a couple experiences. So obviously I have some cars, some lowriders that you're aware of, but I've always had like something So I used to have lowrider bikes. I used to build lowrider bikes when I was a kid, and
like those choppers.
Yeah, kind of like those choppers. Yeah, I used to. I mean, I've had from a basic one and to like one that was like they're like a show one where I'd take it to show, and then I had a tricycle that had like 210s in the back, and so I've always had like that's kind of been something that I've always loved and been passionate about. So as I moved to Boise, like I had the Cutlass that I have now. I had it was one of my as a daily driver, and I had it like lowered and stuff and a sound system, and I would drive around with it and take it to car shows and stuff. And it didn't look like what it looks like now, obviously, but I would always get harassed, man. I'd always get harassed, and then I had one incident where we were in downtown Boise, and there was like 3 of us, and we had just left a car show in Garden City, and we were all there. And at the time, I had like my daughter; she was super young in a car seat still. My wife, and then my buddies and stuff. They had their kids, and they were super young, and we were all legit, but we had cars, decent cars for how young we were. And man, we got surrounded by like I don't know if it was a gang task force, but we got surrounded by a gang task force. We got thrown on the floor and stuff like that. And it got like super, super crazy, super intense, like something that like I never thought I would experience. And that for me kind of made me get sour for like street cops. And I was just like, for a long time, I used to like not necessarily feel like they were enemy, but I just was like, man, I don't like them. Like there was like almost like a distrust that I had for police officers. And then as I stayed in corrections, a lot of my friends ended up going into like they would go be a police officer and stuff. And I would like, obviously they're my friends, and I was able to kind of learn and gain that trust back and stuff like that. And I even probably like up to like 6-7 years ago before I went to the, I guess it was longer than that. So maybe like 12 years ago, before I went to the state of Idaho, Department of Corrections, had a couple people that work for like Caldwell and Nampa, like, hey, you should apply, man. And I really considered it because I was like, oh, you know what? Like I can be that change. I can provide some change. And but then I was like, I like what I do. Like there's no need to change. I enjoy what I do. It's maybe not as much money because at the time the money wasn't like the same. Yeah. But I enjoyed what I do, and I felt like I was in a position where like in a few years I can reap the hard work that I put into corrections, and also be a person that can have impact on choices and stuff. And sure enough, like where I'm at now, the position I'm in, I have the ability to make impact. So yeah.
How old were you when you had your first kid? You mentioned you had a kid.
Yeah, so I was 18. Yeah, I was 18 when I had her. Yeah. And she's 22 now.
So were you still in high school then?
No, we had just moved here. So like when we moved to Boise, yeah, she got pregnant shortly after that.
I got you.
Yeah.
Dang. Yeah. So what made you interested in like the culture for the lowriders and all that stuff? Were you around that growing up, or?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it was kind of around, but like it was really small. I honestly just love the artistic of when you see like lowrider cars and stuff, and even bikes is kind of was my first introduction. Like the time and effort that it would take to like make your bike look like that. And I know like it can look kind of silly, but like people, you can spend $10,000 on a lowrider bike, to make it look the way it looks. But for me, it was really just kind of like looking at it and then just looking at the style, like the personalization of the style of it, and just the way they looked. I love the way they looked. I'm obviously like I love older cars. And those older, when you're building a lowrider bike, you're typically using like a pre-60 frame, and so they have like the curves of the bike and stuff. And then you would fab them up. You'd fab up a metal plate on them so you could put body filler, and then you can kind of create like your custom frame. So instead of just having like a standard frame, but it was just kind of like, really, it was just kind of the art of the bike, the culture of that, like that really kind of drawed me to that, just, I love the way it looked and stuff like that.
When did you make your first bike?
I was probably like 12 or 13, might even been younger. Yeah, I had a couple bikes. I wish I would have kept a couple of them because they were super nice. But I think I was 11, 12, or 13, right around there. I knew it was before I could drive because I bought. I traded a bike that I had for some wire wheels, and couldn't even drive yet. I didn't even have a license yet, but I knew the next thing was to get a car, you know. So there was a family that had some wheels off of a car that they didn't have the car anymore, and I was like, hey, like, you guys want to trade? And they're like, maybe, you know. And then they seen the bike, and the bike that I had was pretty nice at the time, and they were like, yeah, we'll trade. And so I got these rims, and I had them forever at my house. Couldn't drive it. And then when I got my permit, my mom's like, all right, like, let's go look for a car. How much do you have saved? And she's like, I'll pay for half of it if you pay for half of it. So we did that, and we got the first car, and we'd go look at cars, and I'd be like, hey, can I try these rims on? So instead of trying it on and driving it around first, we'd see if the wheels would fit, and it was such a crazy off pattern that, like, there was a bunch of cars that we tried and they wouldn't fit. And so I ended up getting like this Dodge Lancer. I don't even remember what it was. It's such an ugly car, and I think about it now, but the rims fit. And I'm just like, yeah. And so I had that for a few years.
It's like a Cinderella story.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what?
You had the rims, you didn't have the car.
Yeah. I'm like, what? You know, and I'm like, what a dumb approach, man. But yeah, it's funny because, like, as I'm talking to you about it, like, my son does some silly things right now because he likes to build a car. Like, he has a car that he's building, and I'm like telling you the story, and it just, to me, I'm like, huh, okay, my son's doing some pretty stupid stuff that I call and I think are pretty stupid, but I just, you know, I did the same thing, man, you know. Yeah. But I'm just like, yeah, it just hit me right now.
You still have that first car, or not the first car, but your first lowrider you made then?
Yeah. So that was, like, as far as like what you could call a lowrider, like, I had so I had that Dodge Lancer. I want to say it was like an 87 Dodge Lancer, and it was ugly. The only thing that was nice about it was those wheels. And then the car broke down, and those wheels were obviously hard to fit on a car. So I don't even remember what happened with the wheels, but then my parents had a Ford Taurus, and I asked if I could have that, and they're like, we'll sell it to you and won't let you have it. But so I bought it from them, and then that was before, like, bigger wheels were kind of in or the thing. I wanted, like, the car to look nice, so I asked my mom. I said, hey, can you go to I don't remember what tire shop it was. Will you pull out some credit and I'll pay you the rims? And my mom's like, yeah. So we went, let me pick some rims out. And I picked some 17-inch rims. And at the time, they were huge because no one was rolling around with 17-inch rims. And I put them on the Ford Taurus, and then I slammed the Ford Taurus a little bit. Yeah, so I was rolling around in a slammed Ford Taurus. And when I say slammed, it was nothing like you see nowadays. It was just lowered a little bit, and then it had some 17. But I was still, even as I had that, I was still looking for something that was going to be a lowrider. And typically, like, it's called a G body or a Cutlass or a Regal, and that was what I ended up buying was a Cutlass. And I actually bought it from my brother-in-law. He always had, like, he had some nice they're called G bodies, but, like, he had some nice Monte Carlos and some Regals and some Cutlasses, and I just never had the money to buy them. When he'd buy them and kind of sell them and stuff. And the one I ended up getting from him, like, I was old enough to have a decent job, and, like, I went and got a loan out. My mom co-signed for me, but I went and got a loan out at a credit union, and they gave it to me because my mom co-signed, and I bought it and paid it off and stuff. But yeah.
What are some of the challenges of having, like, those hydraulic systems?
Honestly, like, if you do it right, like, the initial cost to buy everything is pretty expensive if you do it right. Typically, obviously, when you're young, you're, like, mutting things together, so your old parts, you know, trying to make things work, and then that obviously creates issues with leaks and low batteries, and low batteries cause fires, and you know, not enough solenoids and stuff, and so it was kind of like that's kind of your biggest thing is if you can put the money up front. Like, now that I'm older, if I buy something, or if I'm doing something to a car, I do it right, you know, because I know it's cheaper at that. It's cheaper just to do it that way in the long run. Like, I'm going to be paying some more money and stuff like that. But if you're younger and you're doing it and you're trying to build a car like that, it's the maintenance. It's the trying to, you know, get one good battery, and then you're buying 2 used batteries, but the 2 used batteries drain your good one because they're not power enough to they're not strong enough to run concurrent with your 3 batteries, or depending on how many batteries you're running. And
how many batteries are there? Like 3 batteries?
I have 6 to that one. So
oh, really?
Yeah. So you can depends on what you're building and stuff. So I've seen cars with like 22 batteries in the back, and those are usually the ones that get off the ground and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But you need like at least 3 for a good lay in place setup, and you can do like a good, if you're not too crazy or like not getting too silly with the car, you can get away with 3 deep cycle batteries for your front and back. But it's pretty standard. You're going to run 3 for the front and back, and then 3 for the rear, or you'll run like 4 or 5 for the front, and maybe 3 for the back, because the front's going to be a lot heavier because of the motor and stuff.
Have you ever done one of those trucks?
No.
Those truck ones are cool. The bed comes out.
Yeah. No, I've always thought it'd be cool to have one. I have one of my best friends. He's technically the president to our club. He lives in Ontario, Oregon, and he has a pretty sweet one. And it's gone through a couple of stages, but yeah, it has a dancing bed and stuff like that. Yeah. So, but it's pretty crazy.
So what's your club, the Latin Ecstasy?
Yeah. So I'm part of the club's called Latin Ecstasy, and I've been with really since I moved down. So probably like I've been in this area for 24 years now, and I've probably been with them for at least 20 years. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you guys just take your club and go to shows, and how does that work?
Yeah, so it's changed over the years. Obviously, when we were younger, like when we were part of the club, we were all young, and our kids, like some of us didn't have kids, or we had 1 or 2 kids, and as time gone on, we have more. But like when we first joined, it was like we were going to car shows pretty regularly, usually local stuff, and then going to cruises and doing like fundraisers and stuff like that. As time evolved, like we obviously have more money, we're wiser, our families are bigger. So like our club, we still do a lot of car stuff. Like we still go to car shows and stuff like that. But really, like we're real specific. As we've gotten older, we're wiser. So we know like our time is very important. So we don't do like anymore. We don't go like to every car show that gets thrown at us, or every car show that's in the area. We try to pick. Usually we'll meet up. Once a year and say, hey, what car shows do we want to go to? And we'll pick like 2 or 3, and then we try to do at least 1 or 2 out of state, and then do that. And then what we really do is we really kind of hang out a lot more. Like we do a couple camping trips together, and we just go out to the mountains and ride 4-wheelers and stuff like that. And then we'll hang out a couple of times in the summer and go like to just different parts to kind of go hang out, play volleyball and stuff like that. So our car club is a car club, but it's more our car club's super small. So like it's more of a family. Like we've kind of watched our kids grow up. The younger guys that are in it, their kids are younger, and so like we're watching them grow up, and then watching their kids grow up as well and stuff. And just kind of being an influence on them and stuff. But we still go to car shows. We just don't go as much as we used to, and we're really selective, and sometimes that comes across like, oh, we're too good, but it's like we just value our time. Like we've done that, we still enjoy it, we still love doing it, and there are some years where like we're all on the same page and we want to bring out our cars a lot and stuff, and then there's some years where like there's only 1 or 2 of us that are like really into it and want to pull out our cars, and then we have 1 or 2 that are real strong, and then three of us are just kind of hanging out, and we'll try to support as much as we can, but it's not like a commitment that you have to do.
Yeah, when you go to these car shows, is it like a competition? Is it like your club versus other clubs, or how those work? Yeah, typically it's like there is a competition. It's like unspoken, like it's this club versus that club, but it's really like there's, depending on the car show, there's like judges, and they judge you. They're supposed to like, so they're supposed to do is like judge you as far as like your mods, do you have paint, do you get a point, you get 1 or 2 points for paint. If you have aftermarket wheels, 1 or 2 points for that. You can have stock OEM wheels, but are like refabbed, Mm-hmm.
So you'd get 1 or 2 points like that. Your interior, the bigger shows, like they count, like if you have your hood open, that's a point, if you have your trunk, your doors open, those are points and stuff. So, but locally, it's just kind of like they go in and go through and kind of look at the car. It's really, really generic compared to like bigger shows and stuff like that. And then you just kind of usually get a plaque or a trophy and stuff. And like even folks that aren't in our club, like we've been doing it for so long. We don't do it like for the competition anymore, or like we don't want a trophy that, or we're like, oh, we don't want to win because we don't have anywhere to put a trophy, or we don't want a plaque. Like we're cool, give it to somebody else that's like really, really wants it and stuff. So we usually just kind of go just to go and just be part of the atmosphere and part of the whatever the show's like, whatever the show is, just kind of be part of that and stuff.
Did you bring your cars out to the prison when they were doing those car shows?
Yeah. So the one at ISEC, we had a large group. We had a large group of our guys do it, and it kind of started because my club has, I think last year, or actually it's probably COVID, when COVID in Oregon, we'd go every year. Our car club would go with motorcycles and stuff. We were one of the car clubs that was invited, and we'd go. We have a couple members in Oregon, and they'd go like every year. So I think since COVID happened, I don't think they've done it. I think this last year was the first year they did it. And I'll be honest with you, I can't remember if any of our guys went, but that's kind of what spun into like doing it with IDOC, was because obviously I was there, and then his name's John Pierce, he runs it. He I can't remember what the group's called, but it's like a motorcycle club. And they reached out to IDOC, and we were able to make it work. And we did it that one year. And one of my goals is to be able to do that again, wherever I'm at and stuff. And, just kind of make a normal day for folks.
Yeah. That's cool. Everybody just forgets where they're at for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back in your like 20s, what were you opening businesses too, or were you just opening or just working in the corrections?
No, I was just working in corrections. I didn't really start like hustling on my own. I think being around that stuff growing up like made me not want to, because I could have very easily like taken over some of the businesses that my dad had and stuff like that, or even brought some of them up here and stuff. But no, I didn't do that until, I'll be honest with you, probably like 2016, 17, maybe even 18. Like I just was like finding myself as my kids got older. I was finding myself with a lot of free time and stuff. And I was like, man, I want something to do, and some opportunities presented themselves. And I would do, I was kind of like a handyman for a private, not a private school, but a charter school here in Caldwell. And they'd like, hey, do you want to do these things? And then I just kind of keep track of my hours and do that. And honestly, I wasn't making like a bunch of money and stuff. I was just doing it, just kind of get out of the house, do something and get a little extra play money. And then when I started doing that, another opportunity opened up, and like to do some office cleanings and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'll do them. And then when we did our taxes that year, my wife does real estate, and she did really good, and then I did really good. And our tax advisor was like, hey, dude, you probably need to open up an LLC. He's like, you're gonna keep paying money if you don't have the proper way to do the write-offs and stuff. And I was like, oh shoot, okay. So I ended up opening up, but it's called D Services LLC, and did it for a little bit, and then I kind of just stopped, like just because I was like, it was like I have that addictive personality, and I was just kind of like grinding like towards it and stuff, and I was just doing it just doing it for the money. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna stop. Like the offices that I was doing, like those ones, I let them go. And then I broke my shoulder, or tore my shoulder rotator cuff, and so like there was like a little pause there, and I was like, all right, I don't need to do it. I was just doing it because I wanted to do it. So I have the ability to do it if I want to, but I just haven't like had that hunger or want to do it.
Yeah. Do you think that like growing up around that, like you said, you just wanted a different life for your kids, like with a relationship with you, like for your father, and you just want to be more present for them? Or was that kind of what drove you away from wanting to grind so much, or what?
Yeah, honestly, I thinking about it, I think being around that so much, like, drove me away from it. Cause like I do sometimes wish like, oh man, I wish I would have that entrepreneur bug that my dad had. Cause like we could have, been super successful. I truly believe like we could, be super successful and just be in a different point of life. But just having that hustle and that grind, and watch my parents. Cause when you have when you own a business, like that's all you do. Like my parents from the morning till the evening, that's what they were doing, whether we were there or not, like that's what they were doing and stuff. So I definitely believe that had an impact on my choice of like having the entrepreneur bug. I definitely know it's there if I really am passionate about something. But even like I've talked to my wife several times because I feel like I'm closer to retirement than I am farther away now. So I have those conversations with her, and I'm like I'll ask her like, what's something that you wish you could do, like a business or something like that. And me and her, like, we'll talk about it, and like we're on the same page. And I'm like, there's nothing that I'm like crazy passionate about other than like I love working out. I like working on cars. But as soon as I know that like I make that into a business, it's not going to be fun for me anymore. And so like that's one of the things that I've kind of, when I've talked to folks about, like I feel like right now there's a big push for entrepreneurship, and there's a big push like if you don't have your own business or if you don't do this, like you're failing. And for a little bit, like I felt like, oh yeah, you're right, and I felt like that was right, and I felt that pressure. And then I realized like I'm content like where I'm at. Like I make good money, I'm wise with it. Like if I needed to find another job, I'm pretty confident I could find another job. And I'm like, it's okay to not be an entrepreneur. It's okay to not, have 5 or 6 hats, 5 or 6 different things in a hat, and trying to juggle all of them and stuff. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like not everybody's going to do that. But I definitely believe like just kind of growing up like that, that's definitely impacted on as far as like me having that bug and wanting to do it.
What do you think you're going to do after retirement then?
So I have a few things. I invest a little bit in crypto, or I have been for a while.
Yeah.
I invest in crypto, and like I've had some people kind of help me out with strategies, and at this point, like I still kind of use those strategies, but I'm just like I buy and I don't worry about it. I'm just buying and I don't worry about it. So obviously I have that, but I would really like to open up a gym and have that kind of have a little bit of income coming towards me as I get older, but just have a place to go work out, but not be somewhere where like I'm trying to make the gym grow, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, just like a private gym, members only kind of thing.
Yeah.
Enough to pay the rent.
Yeah, enough to pay the rent, so I have a place to go to. And then, if there's some extra funds coming in to can reinvest somewhere else, like I'm okay with that. And then I always we joke around a little bit, but I think like if I'm here in this area, then during the wintertime I'll probably go work up in Bogus for a little bit because I like to snowboard. So
oh, do you?
Yeah. I'll go work up in Bogus, get my free pass, and then if not, I think if I'm not in this area, we've talked about like going to Mexico for a little bit, and then just trying to find a little hustle while we're down there.
Do you have to be a resident? Do you have to be a resident in Mexico to own property there?
Be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure. I think to own it, you have to be a resident. Yeah, but I'm not 100% sure.
Get like a rental and then
or
have a rental. So then in the wintertime you go down there and then.
Honestly, that's so my family's from Nayarit, Mexico, and we live probably about like 3 hours away from Puerto Vallarta. And there's a couple of small towns. There's this place called Sayulita, and it's like you drive into it, and it's definitely Mexico. You're in Mexico, but like all you see is Canadians.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and you're just like, what the heck, And it's not super cheap, but it's still not expensive. And like we've really tossed the idea around, like once my son graduates, which he'll graduate this May, like looking at investing at a property over there, something small that we can kind of rent out when we're not there, and then in the summertime, be able to go there. And it's right on, like it's near the beach, so and that's what we want. We want to be near like water and stuff. So.
I heard in Belize you can own property as a U.S. citizen.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't never been in Belize, so that's definitely a spot we want to go check out, though.
Do you guys travel a lot?
Yeah. We got like a travel bug. It was pre-COVID, but we've really only been to Mexico. But before, my wife, she had said, like, we were having a conversation, and she's like, if we pass away, your kids are going to be pretty well off, and they're going to spend all that money within a couple of weeks and months. And I was like, well, once I'm gone, there's nothing I can do about it, because I was such a kind of almost like too safe. And I was like, fine, let's go on a trip and stuff. And we went, and then I was like, oh man, this is pretty fun. Like, so I've definitely found like, try to find like a happy medium and stuff. And as my kids have gotten older, like, we've taken them on a couple trips and stuff like that. But as they've gotten older, I'll be like, hey, if you guys want to go, I'll pay for your flight. You pay for your room, or you pay for your room and I'll pay for your flight, vice versa. And I was like, give them that carrot. And if they don't do it, then they don't do it. And they haven't been able to, or they haven't been able to save, but then me and the wife just go. So, and obviously when I'm paying for 2 people, it's a lot easier than paying for 4,
Right.
But yeah, we've really just traveled to Mexico, and like, we like to see history and stuff like that. So obviously we love being at the beach and stuff too. But we like to go and then be able to kind of go visit. And then we love Mexico because I speak fluent Spanish. So like, I usually have a tactic. Like when we stay, my wife is very, Americanized, I guess you'd say. She's Mexican, but like her grandma and grandpa on her dad's side are like 4th, 5th generation American already. And, so like, she's like, I want to go to a beach. I want resort, and so when we go, like, I have a tactic where like, we usually stay at all inclusive. I usually pull out everything out of my fridge, and I usually have it in a bag, and I go on the beach and I'm just hanging out. And any beach you go to, there's guys selling stuff, and I'll kind of watch for a little bit, and then I'll find like a guy that just, his energy just right or whatever. And we kind of BS a little bit. And I'm like, hey man, you guys want these beers and drinks and everything that's in the fridge? Like, heck yeah. So usually after doing that for like 2 days, like, I'm their man. So as soon as I get there, like, hey, there's Dago, and it's paid off, because when we go, like, they'll usually say like, hey, don't buy anything here. We have someone coming, and they'll get like a discount code, or like they'll tell me where to go and stuff like that. So that's typically like my little plan when we go to like the beaches and stuff like that over there. But yeah, we travel. Now that my boy's going to graduate, we are going to try to go like to Berlin. There's a couple spots the wife wants to go to, just to kind of see some history and stuff like that. So we're going to, in the next 2 years, hopefully do that.
That's cool. It looks like you guys got a pretty close relationship. Always seen you guys on your Instagram, like always going to the gym together and stuff.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. How do you get your wife to go to the gym so early in the morning with you? I can't get mine out of the bed.
Yeah. Honestly, like so it's funny, like, we've definitely obviously been together as long as we have. Like, we've definitely have our up and downs. Like, marriage is definitely not easy. And she's definitely been my rock, my foundation, man. I wouldn't be where I'm at without her, 100%. But for years, like, I would try to get her to go, and she was like, either go like for a week or a couple of days, and just wasn't doing it and stuff. And eventually, like, she realized like I had the bug, and so she started going and stuff like that. And she caught the bug when she started seeing like physical changes in her. And she may say something different, but that's where I feel like she got the bug. Like, she started seeing like physical changes in her. And then even now, she's probably been going like 2-3 years consistently, like super early in the morning and stuff like that. And I always tell her now, I'm like, man, you're like way harder than you were when I first got with you. You're way hotter and stuff. And, but now she just has a bug. Now she has a bug, and, she loves it when she doesn't say it, but I can tell like she enjoys it when people ask her, because for years, like, I'd be like, hey, don't do this or do this, and she's like, oh, that's not how I do it. And now some of the stuff that I would tell her, she's like, oh, this is how we have to do. And by no means am I fitness expert, but like, we all start somewhere, and then we try to share what we know. And typically with your spouse like, nah, my body doesn't do that. I can't do that. Or like, I'm not going to do that. And now, like, sometimes like I tell her, oh, you're like the sensei, like you're teaching me some stuff, So, but yeah, dude, it really is just kind of the change in, I think for her to get the bug, it took her to see it in the mirror, and I don't remember what that saying is, but it's like 4 weeks, some people notice it, or like in 6 weeks, like the people that are always around you notice it. And then it takes you like 12 weeks or something like that for you to notice it, or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think for her, it was that bug. Yeah. Yeah. And I definitely have more of a bug than her. Like obviously this week we've had Christmas and stuff like that, and then her birthday, and she's okay. Like she's okay not going, like if we don't. And for me, I'm just like, oh man, I want to go, man. I just want to go. And even if I just go and do nothing. Like I checked that off. I went to the gym, you know, and she still doesn't have that. And that's probably a good thing, you know, but that's still a difference between us. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to have that routine. I know for me, like, you got to have so many small wins to stack the day. It's like if I don't start my day off going to the gym, I know I'm not going to do it when I get home. And I know the whole day I'm going to be just hating life, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, man, I don't know. I wish my wife would go with me to the gym sometimes, but other times it's kind of nice, you know?
Yeah.
But,
yeah, we used to work out together all the time. And then we've gone through phases. And I think right now we got the best, workout routine where we work out with each other really just on Fridays and Saturdays. And then the other days we just kind of let, you know, do our own thing. And every once in a while we'll do something together, but it's just kind of Fridays and Saturdays when we work out together, but we go to work together. We work out during the same time and stuff like that. So, yeah.
And you guys did that Spartan race before, right?
Yeah. So both of us, so actually I started out doing the Spartan race. I don't even remember what year I started doing it. And I know when COVID hit, that was the last year I did it. But yeah, I did like, I want to say 1 or 2 years by myself. And then again, trying to get her like, come on, come do it. And she's, even for not working out, before, where she's at now, like she's always been super competitive, you know? And, so I was like, you should do it. You'll do it, you know? And then, so as she did that, she caught the Spartan bug pretty quick. And, that got super expensive because we were traveling. We were going to Arizona, Nevada, you know, Seattle, you know, Utah. We were traveling for them because they were fun, but they were super spendy and stuff. So I think when COVID hit, we stopped, and then we were like, that was like a reset for us. Like, oh, that's super spendy. Like, we probably don't need to be doing that, you know. And but yeah, we did that bug a little bit, both of us and stuff. Yeah.
You did the trifectas?
I never got a trifecta, man. Like, I would always, I got like supers, beasts, but I never did a trifecta. I don't remember. The Washington one was the one I was going to do, but I never actually like did it. Yeah. But it was I just didn't do it.
Cause you don't have to do them all in the same weekend, right?
No,
you can do like one of the three and then.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I don't know, like think about it now. I think some of it was like, we would do the race together. Me and her would start together.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I think about it now, I'm like, maybe that's why I was like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, cause to me, it wasn't like, I wasn't trying to get a trifecta, but now that I think about it, I'm like, man, I could have got one super easy. Like there were several times, like we were at an event where like, I could have just done a trifecta and then the next day done like a sprint with her, or, you know, did the super with her or something like that. Yeah, like it's definitely not a regret or anything like that. It was just fun while we were doing it.
Did you start doing that around the same time that she told you were big?
No, that was way before. When she told me I was big, that was way before.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because when I was at that biggest, I was 205, and that's the heaviest I've ever weighed. And during that time, we went back home. So one of our friends or something like that, to Burley, one of our friends had a baby shower or something. And I was sitting in a corner, and they had asked, like, hey, who's that? And she's like, what do you mean? She's like, that's Dago. It's like, oh, we didn't even recognize him. So apparently I was like pretty chunky in the face and stuff like that. And I was like, gosh dang, man, 205, I was apparently, it wasn't looking very good.
That was just after you had your kids and stuff?
Yeah, when I had my daughter, yeah. Yeah, there's pictures, and you can definitely see I was just like, just hanging out, being a dad,
Yeah,
super easy. Like, it's super easy, I guess, to kind of forget what's important, or once you have kids, to try to stay active and stuff like that. Because I wasn't being active intentfully, but I was still doing stuff, and so it's super easy to be able to I'm gonna hang on to the kid, watch TV with the kid, feed them, and not do stuff for yourself.
Yeah, I had to think about that myself too. I mean, as you know, I used to be real big, and then right when I started with iDoc, I think my biggest was around 250, and that was right as I had my kids too. I had 2 kids back to back, 14 months apart. So I worked at a call center before I'd start. So I mean, everything just adds up. But yeah. I mean, that's really what had to get me changing, was I had to realize that I need to take care of myself so that my kids know what needs to be done. Otherwise, like we were speaking about earlier, if they don't know anything else and they just think that's normal. So
yeah.
It's rough though. I know I look back. I'm glad I have the pictures now, but I look back at how big I was, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Like, cause obviously the wife's super active and I'm super active, and my boy, he's 18, and like he's, weight wise, he's a little bigger than I was. Cause when I graduated high school, I weighed 98 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I was skinny. And he's like 138, and I think he's maybe like an inch or half inch taller than I was. But like you look at him, he's like super skinny. I'm like, where do you hiding the 138 at? You know, I can't tell. But he's always played basketball when he was little, all the way up till this is the first year he didn't play basketball with school. And but like I always tell him, like, let's go to the gym, man. Let's get it. You know, and he's like, I don't want to. Like, he doesn't want to do anything like that. But I know at some point in life, he'll be like, oh shoot, like I had a personal trainer, and I never took advantage of it, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny looking at it now.
Yeah. You can't make somebody want to go to the gym.
No.
They got to want to change.
Yeah.
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 It's hard too. Cause like now I look back and I understand how like the body works, and your 20s is when you can put on the most muscle. Once you hit 30, it starts going down. Yeah. I mean, there's things you can do like to prevent that and eating right and everything, but your 20s is when you got to start putting on that size.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I, ever since I tore my rotator cuff, like I lost a lot of my muscle, and I got like my body changed, and, I already knew all this stuff, but like I had to like really focus because I couldn't really lift anything on my upper body. So I had to really like focus on how I was eating. And I'm like, God damn it, I knew this the whole time, but like, so now I really focus, like I'm making sure I'm eating protein, you know what I mean? Drinking water, you know, just like the basics that everybody tells you to do, but you're too smart. Like, oh, I'm going to show the world and like all the studies that you don't have to do it that way, you know? And now I'm like, God dang it, I wish I would have just, you know, focused on eating right, you know, just doing everything that I should have done right, you know?
The magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It would be interesting seeing with this new administration coming in. Hopefully, like with all the healthy stuff, maybe taking out the additives to the food and everything. Like, I'm loving it. Like, that's cool.
I'm excited, man. Like, yeah. Like it's like you go anywhere else. Like, so when we go to Mexico on vacation, I always say I do like these little studies when I do things like random. So this is like a perfect example. It's like when we go to Mexico, like I go to have fun, and like I eat, I drink, you know, and I'm not gonna like hold back. And the only thing I'll probably do is like I try to make sure I eat extra. Like I'm eating protein, intentful on eating my protein, but I'm eating like crazy, like, and I'm drinking and stuff like that. And every time we've gone, man, like I've never like noticed, and only like it may be a week or 2 weeks, but I've never noticed like my body, like I feel bloated or I feel like I've gained some weight. Where here, like I can be on vacation for a week, and I'll feel like in that week, I'll feel bloated. I'll feel like, you know, I've gained some lbs. But when I go to Mexico, I never feel like that. I even come back and I've even lost weight. And I'm always like, what the heck? Like, how is that even possible? And as I like always kind of like, I'm just like thinking about things and like trying to do a little thought process in my head. I'm like, well, it's because in Mexico, like you don't have the preservatives that you have in the US. You know, when you go to the store, typically when you go to the store to buy your meat, you're buying your meat for that evening and that day. You're not buying it for the whole week. You know what I mean? And the meat's obviously a little different, but like your bread, you can buy your bread, like if you're going to buy a bread from a bread store, and it's going to be good for like 2 days max, 3 days max, and it's going to go moldy, where you can buy a loaf of bread here and it's good for 3 or 4 weeks, you know? So like everything we're consuming here has so many preservatives and stuff. So yeah, so I'm pretty excited. Like, I just think like even if they can only make some changes, like the impact that's going to have on my grandkids and, you know, my future grandkids, you know, hopefully is going to be pretty amazing.
Yeah. Do you teach your kids too, like about foods and all that stuff and how bodies work and you need protein and all that stuff? You make sure to instill that in them?
Yeah, I do. They know more than dad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I do. And I'm pretty blessed. Like my wife, she likes for us to eat at home. So like she always cooks homemade meal and she does it from scratch. And so there's always at least one meal at the house that's, you know, homemade for us, warm and stuff like that, and that they can eat and stuff. But they still obviously, I'll tell them like, hey, you got to be eating protein. Like, don't eat stuff out of a box and stuff like that. And they're at that age where they're just like, yeah, whatever. Like, we're good. I'm young. I'm fine. You know, I can drink motor oil and I'm gonna be fine. But like I always tell them, and I try to be careful on how I say it, because my wife says like I can be pretty rough, and I know I can. I know she's right, but like I'll be like you're gonna pay for it later on. Like I hope I'm wrong. But like when you're eating all those dyes and you're eating all that, like the chips and stuff, because we ate it, but not to the level that like my kids or the generations now eat it.
Yeah,
they're gonna pay for it, man. They're gonna pay for it later, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope, you know, my kid's gonna show this video, you know, in 15, 20 years, like, no, Dad, like you're wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but you know, all those preservatives and those dyes and stuff like that, I'm scared that like they're gonna have some health issues because they don't like want to make those healthy changes now, you know.
Yeah, I could definitely tell a difference in dyes. My son's autistic, and like you give him the wrong color stuff, and it totally does change his mood.
Oh, wow.
And it's crazy. Like, he doesn't talk or anything. So, like, we got to really be paying attention to his moods and everything else like that. We got to be more in tune with all that. And it's, yeah. So we're trying to pay attention to all that and get him, like, he only eats, like, French toast and these French toast sticks. And I look at, like, the Great Value ones, and they're made. I'm like, I got to try and make my own version of these or something, get him to eat, like, high protein. Like, he won't eat any meats. So, like, he's always drinking the Fairlife chocolate milk. Like, it's 13 grams protein, right? So I'm like, I'm trying to do the macros for this kid, like making sure that he's still getting what he needs because he's so picky.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's rough, man. What kind of things do you try and instill in your kids, like morals and things that maybe you learned when you were a kid?
Honestly, one of the biggest ones is like church stuff. So obviously, growing up as a pastor's kid, I believe it's like I believe in the Bible, and as I've grown up to who I am now, like there's been times where I've kind of stepped away from the faith and like come and go and stuff. But just the word of God and just believing like that I believe God and I believe Jesus is real, like the Bible is real, and like all that. I've tried to show my kids that we have what we have because we're blessed, because of how we believe, and we tied to the church and stuff like that. And I believe, you know, those are things that I try to instill on the kids. And I try to do it by not just talking to them, but like showing them like, hey, like we may not want to go to church on Sunday, but like that's what we're gonna do, you know. And right now I went through a phase, probably like the last 2 years, went through a phase where like I didn't even feel like I was I didn't feel like I was worthy enough to pray to God. It was pretty weird. And I wasn't reading the Bible and stuff like that. But pre that, like I was reading the Bible in the mornings. I'd do like 15 minutes of just praise and worship, and just kind of let that be like the start of my day and stuff like that. And then, so by example, I've tried to show my kids like, hey, this is stuff that I'm doing. You know, I'm reading the Bible, and just kind of be there for them and just kind of let them know like those are strong beliefs that we stand by. And like on my side of the family, like it's really evident. You can see it through my nephews, on everyone, on my sisters, and I have 4 sisters and 1 brother. The value of God, and you know what it brings to a family, and how it should impact our lives is there. You know what I mean? So that's probably been the number one thing. And then the second thing I always try to, by example, is just how to treat their mom. You know what I mean? And I've obviously made some serious mistakes, and I've done some stuff that I'm not proud of, but I tried to show them through actions like how to treat their mom, like, you know, things that I used to see. Like obviously my dad was a pastor, but he grew up with machismo, being Hispanic and stuff. And machismo is typically like, well, I won't step in the kitchen. That's not my role. That's not my place. And so like my kids grew up watching me do laundry. My kids grew up watching me like help clean the kitchen or like making food. Like one section of the house isn't just for men, and one section of the house isn't just for women and stuff like that. So just by letting them see those things and by example.
When you stepped away from the church and then came back, what was your first steps on getting back into that?
Honestly, man, again, it was my wife, man. It was my wife just being my rock and my foundation, like just speaking truth and being real with me, like, and just situations had arise, and she'd be like, if anybody knows, like, that's the answer, and that's the avenue that you need to go to. It's you, you know, and so, and even like when we've gone through situations in our life, she didn't grow up in church, but because like I had such a strong belief of it growing up, she eventually learned to love it, believe it, and stuff. And so as we'd have instances in our life growing up or situations in our marriage, she would still be a rock and foundation, say, no matter what, we're going to keep God, even if it's just going to church. She's like, we're going to do that every day. We're going to do that every Sunday, or every Sunday and a Wednesday. She made that be like, this isn't an option. This is what we're doing and stuff. So she's always been like the rock and foundation for me and just kind of our family. But she's definitely been like, when that situation or that time, like she was like, no, we're still going to go to church. Like, and then just speaking what I needed to hear, you know?
Yeah. Wives have a way of doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. They always bring you back to the true north, and sometimes they need to set you straight.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I've been trying to get more into the faith this year. Like I've never, in my adult life, never really been a believer much. I went through a lot as a kid. So I was like, there's no way that there can be a higher power that put me through everything that I've been through. But you know, like you have too many things go back to back, and you think about all the things you had to go through to get to where you're at now. And you're like, there's no way this can be a coincidence, you know? And it's like really, really powerful when you start actually believing in it. And then when other things do happen bad in your life, you're like, man, I know there's a plan for this. Yeah. And it's just a lot easier to deal with things when you just have faith.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Like, it's hard for me to even like admit it. Because like growing up, I seen some crazy stuff growing up, obviously going with my dad to like Mexico. And I definitely feel like when you go to places where like, they have to live more by faith, because like obviously in America, like we're pretty lucky. Like we have a roof over our heads, we have food, you know, usually have food for a couple of days, even when you're like pretty broke or when you're poor and stuff. So going to those areas, like I seen some stuff that like most people, unless they see it with their own eyes, they're just like, oh, that can't be real. Like that's not real. That stuff doesn't happen. But I've seen like possessions and stuff like that. And so for me to have such a strong faith growing up, and like to be able to step away, and have like times where I don't feel that I'm worthy enough to pray to God, like that just shows us, like, you know, the Bible talks about like, that the devil comes like a thief at night, you know, to come to seek and destroy, like, and, that right there shows like how important it is, like, for the devil to try to destroy families and to try to sow in doubt, you know, and into people, into marriages, into families, you know? So yeah, man, I've seen some crazy stuff growing up.
Have you ever had, I know you said that you felt like you had someone watching over you when you came to Boise and your friend's house got raided. Have you ever had any other times that were like close calls? You're like, definitely someone's looking out for me.
Yeah, well, as a youngster, man, like obviously I was a PK kid, but I was up to no good, man. There's been a couple of times where like there'd be a group of us friends. There's a situation where we had, one of our friends, his older brother, we were at a house party, and his older brother came to the house and said, oh, these guys just, can't remember if he said they shot at him or pulled a knife at him. But I want to say it was like pulled a knife out at him and his friends. And they were at like a house party. And we were younger than them. I had to have been like 15 or 16 at the time. And we were like, oh, that's not going to happen, you know. And I remember us going to the house, man, and like it was like, imagine like Cuna, you know, like houses in the middle of nowhere, you know, like fields and stuff.
Right.
And we pulled up to this house, and like that's where the house party was at. And there was like, I bet like 11, 12, 13 cars. We all get out of the car and we're going in there to kind of, I don't know what the hell we were going to do, but we were going to tell them like they couldn't do that. And I remember seeing the door. It was like pitch black. I see the silhouette of the door open up, and like a dude comes out, and then another dude comes out. and you just hear like a shotgun kind of rack, and you just hear like, hey, I don't know what you guys in here. You guys need to leave. And when he racked the shotgun, like a bunch of people started going back to their cars, and I was with this dude named Ricky, and he was crazy. He's still around. He's still pretty crazy from what I hear, but he's a solid dude. Like he definitely had your back, but he was like walking straight towards like danger, and I was just like, I got your back, Ricky. And there was someone else that was by us, and like we were walking, and then he heard, I'm not telling you guys again. And then all of a sudden you just heard like a couple shots, and it wasn't like they must have another gun because it wasn't shotgun, but it was like maybe like a long rifle 22, and just seeing like sparks all over us. Like, and I remember like after I left, I remember thinking like, damn, like we could have got shot. Like, but that was enough. Obviously that made us like him like, all right. And we went back to the cars and stuff and took off. But that was a specific time where I was like, oh damn, like I was like, I could have got shot there. Like I probably should have got shot, but like someone was looking out for me, you know? But yeah.
Yeah. What do you think for people that want to get into faith? Like where's a good spot for them to start?
Honestly, like if someone that wants to get into faith, I mean, I think what's important is to find a place that you're going to feel like you're getting fed. I think you don't need to go to a church in a sense, but I believe like that community is super important, like finding a church. So my first step would be like trying to find someone or a place where you go and you feel comfortable, you feel like you're at home. Honestly, I would tell them to go like to several different churches, go to like big churches, small churches, find somewhere. When they're at the right place, they're going to know that they're at the right place, you know? And I believe God is so powerful and so magnificent that like, he's not at one location, or, you know, you can find your needs and what you need from him at a smaller church, a bigger church, not even a church, you know, it can be an old warehouse, an old store where someone's building up a church and stuff like that. And then something I need to do more of is just kind of reading and praying, man. Reading and praying. When I found myself in recent battles, I have been able to pray and call out his name and stuff, and like without a doubt, like I know I feel peace. You know, I feel like, okay, even if I'm still struggling, I'm better than where I was when I wasn't praying and stuff, you know, and that's something like I said, like I wasn't praying before, and my wife's like, if anybody knows, like, you know what you need to do and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know I need to get it more on a daily walk. You know, like a song Jelly Rolls, like I only talk to God when I need some help or whatever, right? I'm like, man, that's been a lot for me, is just like, it's always when I need something, not just like thanking him for everything that he's already given. And it's kind of hard to like see it in the moment, but there's so many things that I've been given that I would never, I mean, I don't even know. It's just crazy to look back and just appreciate everything that I've had to go through.
Yeah.
And sometimes like that other song, it's like some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers, you know? It's like, man, some of the things that I thought that I wanted help on, it's a good thing that I didn't get the help that I think that I needed, right?
Yeah.
Like I had to go through a lot of the stuff to get to where I'm at now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I definitely feel like some of our battles, you know, they help, you know, they can make you sink or they can make you swim, but you know, I think for the most part, you know, as long as you continue to move forward with faith or without faith, like you're growing, you know what I mean? You're growing, and that's as Father Time doesn't wait for no one. Like it's important just keep growing, man, you know?
Yeah, I think putting yourself in uncomfortable positions is the best way to grow. I think a lot of us just comfort seek that instant gratification. You know, I think that's the cool thing about the gym is you can put yourself through the ringer every single day, right?
Yeah.
And it's always going to give you growth. You're not going to get those big muscles if you're not going to be tearing down little micro tears every time, but you could make that same correlation in life. Like I hate public speaking, right? So what do? I start a podcast. It goes out to thousands of people. I don't know, whoever sees it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just crazy. You got to think being I don't know. I was thinking about my goals for next year, and I was like, I'm just going to try and be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Try and put myself as many uncomfortable positions as I can, because that's where growth happens. I think a lot of people make the wrong goals of just like certain things. Mm-hmm. Like I said on the last podcast, was people say they want to lose weight, but weight isn't really their issue. It's more like their discipline, right?
Yeah.
So it's trying to find that right thing that you really need to work on and confront, rather than the top layer.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. We have, a lot of us have, whether it be skeletons in our closet, or we have unresolved issues. You know what I mean? We all have them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so. I think community is a big thing too. Is just finding people. When I started this podcast, I started having a lot of people come out of the woodworks and like, hey man, I thought I was alone with all this like stuff that I went through as a kid, but like just hearing you talk, and it started a bigger community, and I could like talk to people, and they've reached out to other people that have been on the podcast. It's cool just to have like a community. I'm sure like you feel with your car club, Yeah. It's just that kind of community that you can bounce ideas off of, especially guys. They don't really talk a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, man. Like I listened to that podcast where you get interviewed and stuff, and like it's, for men, I think it's hard for us to get vulnerable, man. I've learned that as I've gotten older. Like it's easier once you do it. I mean, I don't want to say it's easier, but once you do it, like the value of doing it, so it gets a little easier and stuff. But I think typically as men, like we don't want to ask for help. We don't want to look vulnerable, and stuff. And it's just part of who we are. Like I experienced that as I've gotten older. There's things like that men don't talk about. Like losing your hair, ED, like testosterone and stuff like that. And people want to, like men, I say people want to act like that stuff doesn't happen to us men. And like I've tried sharing stuff like my personal experience with younger men, like, hey dude, like start doing this, so when this does happen, and if it does happen, like it's less, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I remember when I was younger, like not super younger, but like 10, 12 years ago, I'd ask some guys about like testosterone and stuff, like, oh no, don't, they tell you like, or not want to tell you, you know what I mean? Or tell you against it and stuff. And then now I've taken the time to do some of the research. I know people that are on it and stuff. And it's like, it's not a bad thing. Like us as men, we should want to help those younger generations coming up and sharing the knowledge that we have, but for whatever reason, us men usually struggle with that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I'd never got my blood work checked until last December. And it was like right after I got my vasectomy. And I was like, I don't know, let's go get my blood work checked. And I just happened to tell him, like, hey, check my testosterone. I've never got that checked either. And I comes back, and before it came back, I was like, where should I expect that number to be? He's like, between like 500 and 800 would be a good number. I was like, all right, cool. So then the next day it comes back and it's like 170. And I'm like, yeah, is this like a mistake? Or he's like, well, let's give it like 30 days and we'll retest it just to make sure it wasn't a mistake. So 30 days goes by and it comes out like 177. I don't know. He's like, that's extremely low. He's like, a natural female is like 250. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I haven't been able to grow facial hair and I'm almost 30,
Yeah.
Like, checks out.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to get on TRT though. And so I took like 3 months and I was just taking ashwagandha, terkesterone, like everything I could find on Amazon, TikTok shop, whatever, you know. Took that solid for like 3 months. When it got tested, it was like 187. I was like, all right, let's try this out. So yeah, like I'm on TRT. Like I'm taking it. I took it for like, they gave me like 1 mil for every 2 weeks. I went back after like 6 months or three months, and it was like 170 still. So he's like, oh, we're not taking it enough. It's wearing out your system too fast. So now they got me on like a decent level and I feel fine. But I'm like, I would have never known.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not ashamed of it. Like, I would rather feel normal. Like, I don't know what normal was before, right? Yeah. And I was doing all my weight loss stuff, like at a 170 testosterone, getting up at 2 a.m. to go to the gym, like just dead. Yeah. I'm like, man, I wish I would have been knowing what my actual levels were. Yeah. Like, and just feel normal.
Yeah, I think it's important because like you're the fact that you're willing to share that stuff, or when us men are willing to share, like it makes it not so taboo, when we want to talk about it, stuff like that, So yeah, I think that's definitely kudos on you for doing that, man.
Yeah, it's hard. Like on my podcast, it was like the 8th one, right? So obviously I was dragging some feet.
Yeah.
And that should have probably been the first one. But I'm having all these other people tell their story, and I'm baby and not even telling mine. But somebody told me, they're like, if you're afraid to tell your story, it's just your ego getting in the way, and that's selfish. Like, if your story could help one other person change their life or make them go in the right direction, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
like, damn.
Yeah, ego, man. Ego. It's I don't know if it's for females and males, but definitely I feel for males, like it's there, and it's definitely an obstacle, man. Especially as we're young, like I keep saying, the older I get, I definitely feel like the wiser I'm getting, and I'm pretty thankful. Yeah, man, a lot of obstacles for us men,
Yeah, especially if you're going into like a leadership role. I mean, being able to say that you were wrong is crazy. I mean, even I'm not a leader on paper, but like for my family or anything, and my kids, I praise my kids when they come up and tell me like, Dad, you hurt my feelings when you raised your voice, or I mean, there's times to be disciplined, but like when I just am out and I'm wrong and they come up to me and tell me like I'm proud of them, but I have to take ownership and be like, yeah, you guys are right. And that was wrong of me to do. But like old me, I would have never done that.
Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do kind of thing. And that's just ego.
Yeah.
Right. We got to be examples for our kids.
Yep, for sure, man. Yeah. I think, and then everything we do, man, like you're a leader more than you realize it. Cause like how many people like are scared to do a podcast? Or start a podcast, and they're like watching you, and how many people are like listening to you, or even just like your posts of going to the gym. I mean, I don't know if you've had it happen to you, but I've had it before. Like I used to post a lot more, and I kind of ebb and flow as far as posting stuff for the gym, but I've had it where people are like, hey man, it's like random people will be like, I really appreciate you posting it. Like it's motivated me to work out and stuff. And I don't get them all the time, but the time I've gotten them, like, I'm like, hell yeah, that's badass, man. And it's one of those things like, it's going to help if it helps one person or two people. We're like, in all things that we do, we're leaders, and I always, it's kind of related to work, but I always tell people like when they're asking me about like promoting and stuff, I'm like, dude, everything you do every day is a resume, everything you do. So when you're out there, the way you're communicating people, the way you're treating people, whether it be the residents in our population or whether it be your peer or supervisor, however you're acting, like that's a resume. Like that's what people are remembering, and that's what people are gonna, when they're looking at folks, that's what they're gonna judge you off what you're doing every day, because that's your resume that you're doing.
Yeah, even if people aren't commenting on what you're doing, it's like when you post a reel on Instagram or something, you'll see 500 views and only 3 likes.
Yeah,
but they're looking, they're watching.
Yep.
So it's like you got to be. That's what I always say about my kids is like they'll never listen to what I say, but they'll emulate what I do.
Yeah, for sure.
So you got to be just living. I mean, that's where I think faith would come in too. If you can, try and mirror your life as close as Christ-like as you can. Like,
yeah, man. I think my nephew said it one time. He's like, what if? He's like, I think he did it for a class, and I don't want to. Hopefully, I'm not misquoting him too much, but he had in one of his classes, he had to explain how God was real, like, but use like facts or something like that. And at the end of like what he presented and stuff, he said, let's just say God isn't real. Let's just say it's not. But if you treat people as the God wants you to treat people and just treat people right, you just do that, like no one's going to lose. No one's going to lose at that. Like, it's a win, because if you're treating people fair, kind, doing the right thing for the right reason, taking care of people that need help, just doing all those Christ-like things, man. Like, what if you did that, and at the end of the day, we pass and we don't wake up, we just close our eyes and that's it. Like, but if that's what you did your whole life, like, that's still a win, man. Like at the end of the day, like we made an impact on earth, and we were still treating people right, helping people succeed, providing when others couldn't provide for themselves, being a brother, a keeper to our brothers, stuff like that. So I think about that a lot. Like, I'm just like, just do things right, treat people right. Just treat people right,
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, I asked my dad about God and everything, and he was like a believer, but he didn't really go to church a lot. And he was just, I remember him telling me, I'd rather live my life thinking that there's a God and find out there's not than to not believe in one and then find out there is.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I mean, that's true, right? That's what I tell people too. I mean, before I was really religious, is like, I don't care what you believe in. Most religions have the same kind of morals. There's extremists in any religion, right? But as long as you're religious of some sort, like you're going to be having some kind of morals. You're going to be having, integrity, honesty, like all the good things. So you can't go wrong, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's really good to, especially raising family. Like I won't always be there for my kids, but they need to have a set of morals. Yeah. Especially in this day and age, like they're being pulled in every different direction.
Yeah. So scary time for the future generations for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think faith is huge. I think my kids are starting to like to go to church at the Rock Harbor. You know, they have a good program for my son. It kind of just fell in my lap, man. My next door neighbor, she was telling me about it, and I was like, no, I'm good. Like we'll figure something out. And then somebody else told me about it, and I was like, all right, let's go check this place out. Like, and then it's just crazy. And then, I mean, it's a pretty big church, obviously, so there's a lot of people that go there. It just like opportunity, you start looking for it, they pop up everywhere.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, man, what's some stuff you tell your younger self?
Tell my younger self. So, I probably would really push myself to go to school at a younger age. Not because I feel like I needed it, just because it's something that like I would have liked to accomplish, like a personal goal. But honestly, another thing is I probably would have paid attention to. I would tell myself to pay attention to time, man. Time moves so fast, and I've spent my kids. My youngest is 18. My daughter's 22, and like through my early career, man, like I spent a lot of time traveling. I was on a tactical team, and I was lucky enough I say lucky because it built my resume, but I also experienced things some folks will never experience. But I went into a lot of disturbances and stuff like that. So I was gone doing like kind of deployments in a sense with the TAC team that I was on. And I missed a lot of things with my kids. I was providing, as a man, I felt like I was still doing what I needed to do because I was making sure, there's a roof over their head, food in the fridge and stuff like that. And the wife had that. But as I've gotten older and the kids have gotten older, I realize how much I missed, man. And even like with some of my relationships, I've always had a belief that I want a small circle, Small circle means quality. And even as time had gone on, like my circle has gotten even smaller. Like my circle now is so small. And it sucks sometimes. Like when you need to move furniture, that sucks, because your circle's so small. But I realized like, man, we spend a lot of time with people that aren't in our lives no more. Even though my circle was small, we spent a lot of time with people that aren't in our lives no more. And like, I believe we have so many minutes, so much time on earth to give. And I don't necessarily regret giving them that time, but I would rather have given all my time to people that are either still in my circle or my kids and my family, man. And so that's probably one of the things I'd go tell myself, like, hey, like slow down, focus on like who you're bringing to the circle. Cause like I said, man, like I always have been like, I want a small circle quality. But even then, like with my small circle, I felt like some of my relationships, they were great. Nothing bad happened, but like as they slowly went away, I'm like, man, there's 3, 4 or 5 years where I spent summers with these friends with my kids, and now they're not they're not in my family's life anymore. And like, it's almost like, I'm like, dang, what a waste. Like I want the younger self to know, like, whoever's going to be there, I want them to be there for my whole journey of life, man. Like, cause how amazing, how awesome is it to, be there from the start to the finish. I mean, how strong and, that loyalty, that friendship and stuff like that. But that'd probably be the second thing that I'd tell my younger self, man.
How do you qualify those people?
Oh, man, that's a tough one to answer, man, because um, like honestly, I'd probably lean more on my wife. So now because she's always been really good at being like. So when you meet her, if you ever get a chance to meet her, you'd be like, she's kind of stuck up. She's kind of like she's not very nice, and but she is really big on like she picks up on like people's energy and stuff, and she also values like she's not gonna give you her time, and she's not gonna give you her time if you're only gonna be in her space for a little bit. Like she's not gonna be rude to you or mean to you, but there's gonna be just something that's off. So I'd probably lean on her a lot more than mine. Like I'm friends, I'll be your friend. I like this. Am I going to bring you in the circle? Okay, I'm going to bring you in the circle. And I'd lean more on her, um, and trust her instincts a lot more. Like as far as like, hey, like, and honestly, it's not anything bad because there's folks that have been in our circle that aren't in our circle anymore, and they're not in our circles because something bad. It's just our vision, our goals have kind of changed, and they don't match like our growth, if that makes sense. They don't match our growth. So I'd lean on her probably a lot more than I like to admit.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that too. Some people are in your life for a reason, and some people are in your life for a season.
Yeah.
It's just hard to find out when that is until you start doing that growth, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just small things like you start, like when I stopped drinking, I found some of my friends, we were just drinking buddies.
Yeah.
You know? And I thought we were like family friends.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you don't drink anymore. That's why we don't invite you. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah. And some people, I mean, I don't believe they do it intentionally, but they just, they're around you because you provide a need for them at that time, that season of their life, you know?
Yeah.
And, it sucks. It sucks, man. But, yeah, one of the things I always think about is like my kids growing up, outside of my car club, like, I've always like the car club, like I've had the car club, but I've also had like a little circle of friends, and, we spent a lot of summers camping and, boating and just having fun, man. And we had fun. There's nothing to take away from that. We definitely had fun, but, now they're not, I'm still friends with them, but they're not in our lives, you know? And it kills me because I'm like, man, I wish I would have, like focused more on my kids if I had known that, you know, 5 years down the road, like you weren't going to be there. That energy, that entertaining, like the kids were there, but I was entertaining us as adults, or we were entertaining each other as adults and letting the kids do their things. And if I would known like they weren't going to even be in the picture, then I would have rather have just been my small circle of maybe one or two friends and then the kids, and give more time to them and more intimate conversations with them or intimate fun with them, you know, my kids and even my friends' kids that I'm real still tight with, you know, that small circle.
Yeah. I mean, that's only something you can get after doing a lot of soul searching and thinking, man. That's really interesting to think about, because I've had a lot of friends like that, like they're in your life. I was just talking about some of this the other day. It's like even just changing posts, you know, like you become real close to people when you're in a post with them. And then you're like family barbecues, everything like that. And then you even just switch posts, your same facility, and you're done.
Yeah.
It's like crazy.
Yeah. Me and my wife were talking about this a couple of weeks ago. We have some close friends that we just don't hang out with very much and very often. And like when we do see them, like you can tell they're like, oh, you know, when are you going to make time? You know, they'll say little things. And I don't think they're trying to like throw jabs, but they're like, hey, like we're not hanging out. But like they have new people in their circle. Like every year there's 1 or 2, 3 new people in their circle. And when me and the wife were talking about that, I was like, to me, like you have so many minutes to give. You're taking those minutes away from your kids or us, you know, if we're part of that circle and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I don't want to be around, like, there's nothing wrong with it, but that's not where I don't want to be around, or I don't want to be around that. Like if I want to give you my all. If you're in my circle, I want to give you my all, and I want you to give me your all. Like I'm gonna be there for you, so I'm gonna expect you to be there for me.
I think when you really understand like how precious time is, it changes your whole outlook.
Yeah,
because you realize that you could like tomorrow's not a given. Like people say that, but until you like really understand that and think like, I might not wake up tomorrow. How does that change what I'm gonna do tonight? Right?
Yeah.
Am I gonna kiss my wife goodnight more, knowing that I'm gonna possibly not wake up, and then am I gonna go? Yeah, it's just crazy to think. I have to tell my wife all the time too. I'm like, we only got like 8 more years with our kids in the house, or one kid, right?
Yeah.
Then she's gone. Like we need to make sure that these times we aren't going to let just pass by. These are the times that it's like remembering that you're in the good times while you're in the good times.
Yeah. Yeah. When my daughter graduated high school, she graduated the year COVID hit, and there was a commercial. I think it was Red Bull, but either way, there was a commercial, and it started out with this old guy holding a can. He's either old guy or young guy, but it reverses, and he talks about he's like giving a speech in a locker room to a bunch of guys, and he says he's like and he breaks down like being in college, and he's like, you got 4 summers of this and 3 summers of that, and like I remember watching that, and I like looked over at my daughter, and I was like, if I would have paid attention, like you only have 18 summers with your kids, really, assuming they're not going to stay at home, assuming that they're going to, move out, do their thing. You have 18 summers. So if you break down your kids' life in summers, like, dang, like I only have them for a short season, man. Like, how dare I like share my time with anything else that's not important? You know what I mean? And I wish I would have realized that a lot sooner. Cause when she did graduate, and for me, a light switch that had hit was like how important my relationship. I never realized how important like her relationship was with my parents. Like her lack of having a super close relationship with my parents impacted me, because I didn't think it was important until I realized like, oh shoot, she's done with high school. My parents are getting older. Like you don't build that bond now that she's out of high school. You build it when she was younger, So there was a lot of little things like that. That was like, for me, it was like, damn, like it hit me pretty hard. Like that was a pretty dark season for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I've thought about that too. Like with like my parents and grandparents, like say you only have 10 years left with your grandpa or something, right? And then you visit him maybe twice a year. You don't have 10 years left. You got 20 visits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good way to break it down, man. Yeah. Yeah. My parents, my dad just turned 80, and my mom's 79. She'll be 80, man. And yeah, I know, I know that my time with them is short. I know it's short, man. So like, it's definitely hard. It's definitely hard when I think about it and when I go visit them and stuff. And they're ornery, dude. As the older you get, the ornery you are. But I'm like, man, I don't have a lot of time with them, man. It sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's just remembering those times while you're in them. It's rough, especially with kids.
Yeah.
Because I know I hear it all the time, like, enjoy it while you can, because they're gone.
Yeah.
And especially, like, my daughters are about to hit teenage years, too. So then I'm like, they're still in the house, but are they really even wanting to hang out with mom and dad anymore?
Yeah. Yeah, this is our first Christmas. Like, we're not technically empty nesters, but it's definitely transitioned into empty nesters, because our daughter moved out and she moved back in, and our son obviously lives there with us. But, like, this Christmas, like, they were with us, and then, like, I think it was, like, 8:00. They all left, did their own thing for a little bit. And me and the wife were kind of like, oh, this is it, And for me, it was like, and this was just, just a couple of days ago, I was like, so this is what my parents probably felt like when we left the house. Like, because I don't want to say I was sad, but I was like, it was lonely. It was like lonely. And I'm like, oh, shoot, this is what my parents this is what my parents felt like. And this is probably what have felt like, because all of us, we all grew up and we have our own lives, and it's part of life. But I'm like, I'm feeling that loneliness, like, for the first time, Yeah.
You guys still going to go out and do like family vacations then? You said you invite them and.
Yeah. I hope to be in a position where, like, obviously me and the wife are going to do some vacationing and just some more stuff like that, intentful stuff. But my goal is to be in a position where like I can either make it I mean, it'd be ideal to be able to like pay for them, but just make it where it's super affordable for them to go with us every couple years and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sweet, man. What's some upcoming challenges or goals you got coming up?
Honestly, I feel my challenges are kind of, and like my challenges are really like work related. I took on a new role 6 months ago, did a completely different side of the house, what I'm used to and stuff. And when I went into that role, I asked my boss, I said, hey, like, what's one thing you want me to accomplish in my role? And he had said, it's that Restoring Promise unit. He's like, I really want that Restoring Promise unit to start, even if we don't do it we don't build that a building, because they're building a building specifically for it. So I was like, all right, you know, so I took that and took off running with it. And it's been a lot of work, man, mentally. And then just kind of just a lot of physical work, you know, as far as just kind of making sure folks are doing what they need to do. But honestly, personal growth, it's going to be continuing. It's something that we're working on right now, me and my wife, but continuing to build our relationship. We're kind of going through a phase where this is kind of like either our second or our third marriage. And so it's learning who we are, because obviously when we were kids, we knew who we were. And now that we don't have kids, we're completely different people. So just being intentful as far as learning who she is, what she needs from me, and then likewise what I need. And, you know, hopefully she does that for me, and just getting to know her again as she's always been my wife, but just getting to know the new person she is, because now we don't have the kids keeping us busy. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a rough one. I'm trying to redate my wife now too. Like, we don't go on dates as much as we should. It's kind of like we're just stuck in the loop of parenting. We stop, you know, like what we fell in love with each other, right? It's just like having fun and doing stuff. Now we're just like straight parents, just, you know, not doing much fun stuff, and just learning each other over again, right?
Yeah. And you know what? Like, we've always been real good about going out on dates and stuff. And so like when we went through this phase of our boys 18, our daughter's obviously 22, like the house being empty, them being gone more, and like, and it's just us for dinner. Like, we are like, how do we not really know each other? Like, how do I not know this about you? And, cause we've gone out on dates. Like I felt like we did a pretty good job as far as like going out on dates, and I guess it's just that new phase of marriage, and maybe we weren't as intentful as I thought we were when we were going on dates to kind of learn and talk and stuff like that. We were just kind of we were just in the moment and just kind of going out to eat and hanging out, and that's checking the box. But really, like, getting to know each other, like what do you like? And then like that's some of the stuff we do now is like, we'll ask each other like, hey, do you like this? Like, I've learned some stuff within the last 3 months. I've learned some stuff about her and her past that I never even knew. And I shared some stuff with her like that, some stuff with her that I've never told anybody. Like, and she's like, holy crap, you know, and we're both like, oh my gosh, like, we've been together this long and we don't even know, you know, we didn't even know this stuff about each other. And so just kind of like being more intentful when you guys, or when you're out on dates, like, instead of just, hey, we're here to eat a meal, spend the night away from the kids, but like, hey, ask some specific questions, you know what I mean? Just kind of getting to know each other. You know, communication's super important, man.
Yeah, I think that's important. Yeah. I think about that myself, and we just go out to eat, get the check, and go home, right? Yeah.
If you know, going back to that one question, I would tell my younger self, probably before everything, I would tell myself, learn how to communicate with my wife. Yeah, because that's something I'm like learning how to do right now. And we avoided hard conversations, even when we didn't think they were hard conversations. So that's probably something I would tell my younger self, like, learn how to communicate.
Do you think that was like an ego thing? like those hard conversations of not wanting to do that, or is that just something you just weren't really raised around of communication like that with the whole?
I think it was just the lack of knowledge. Like, so me and the wife, we started doing marriage counseling, and like that's kind of helped us out tons as far as just learning how to communicate with each other. And sometimes like we're not even asking for the other person to fix anything. We just need to share how we're feeling. And that enough is like, it's, makes it disappear, and just not knowing like how important something is. I can assume all day, like I know what values my wife has or what's important to her. But unless she tells me, like, I'm just assuming. It doesn't matter if I've been with her for 20 years or 40 years. Like, I'm just assuming. So, like, creating that safe space for her to be able to say, like, hey, like, did you know, like, this happened and I didn't like the way this happened made me feel this way. And like, oh, shoot. Okay. And then, just like repeating, making sure I understood what she's saying. And yeah, that it is. And then sometimes it's like, I'm sorry, it's like, okay, well, and sometimes it's like, I didn't know that, like my intent wasn't this, my intent was this,
Yeah.
So
that repeating thing's huge.
Yeah, it is, man. It is, yeah.
Because even if you're just trying to repeat it to make sure that you understand and you heard it wrong, you legitimately heard it wrong.
Yeah.
And now it saves a whole bunch of argument afterwards.
Yeah. 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 And I think for both of us, like, I know definitely some of it's culture, but I think it's just lack of knowledge. Like, you're like, well, how, if it's not a big deal, like if I can just kind of brush it off and not bring it up in a conversation, like I'm fine. But reality, like if it's bothering me enough to like have enough of a conversation with myself to say, nah, it's not a big deal. It's a big deal. Like I should bring it up. And and I've learned a lot, like just being able to like say something and like, I don't even want a solution. I don't even want you to fix anything. I just want you to know how I feel. And then vice versa, like just her sharing like how she's feeling and how she wants. And she doesn't even want me to fix it. She just wants me to know, is like, gosh dang, man, how easy is that? But, don't do it.
Yeah, I had to get to that point too. With my wife, she would tell me something and I just want to fix it for her. I had to get to the point where she'd start telling me about the day and I'd be like, do you want to be helped or heard?
Yeah.
Like, because I just need to know where this conversation is going. Because you might just want to be venting, but I'm just here to want to like give you solutions and fix stuff. And that's not what they want.
Yeah.
Sure. What's before we go, like what's one of your best mindset or discipline tips that you would give someone? So obviously you got a lot of discipline in your life, and mindset, what do you think is some good areas for that?
Man, there's so much information out there, man. I'd probably say, I'd probably go back to like something I share sometimes with folks is like hard times create, what's that? Hard times create, hard times,
strong men.
Strong men.
Strong men make easy times. Easy times make soft men. Yeah.
That's probably something that I would share or lean on because I see that in my life. Because my kids, we weren't poor by any means, but my parents were super frugal, and I grew up hard, and obviously, so I made my kids' life easier than mine, and I see the how my kids, their thought process along with their surroundings impacts them. Had I been hard on them, it would have made them more. It would make them more of a warrior in a sense for what they're going to encounter. But because I was softer on them, because I felt like my parents were hard on me, I created a weaker version of them than they could have. So that's probably something I would share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just letting them think more for themselves and figure out situations, and you give them all the answers.
Yeah.
And easy. Yeah. Perry, when he was on here, he said something like that too. He was referencing quotes like a story about a kid that walked to school. His dad drove in like a car, and it's like his grandson will be driving a Bentley.
Yeah.
And then his son will be walking again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. and I know we're probably close to the end, but I'll share a story that my dad. So when I was like 14 or 15, I told my dad I was done with school, and maybe I was a little older because I think I was in high school. But I told my dad, "Hey, I'm done with school. I don't want to go to school no more." And he's like, "Really? You don't want to go to school?" I was like, "No." It's like, "Why not?" It's like, and I remember just saying like, "It's dumb, like stupid." And he's like, "Okay." And we left. Like the conversation we had, we left, and I was like, "Cool." He says, "I don't have to go to school." And I remember thinking, "Damn, that was easy." And I went to school the next day. Just part of the routine, I guess. I went to school the next day. That day after school, he shows up to the front of school in his van. He honks. I see him. And I just thought we were going to go do work something. So he picks me up and I'm like, "What's up?" And I immediately thought like we're going to somewhere to load up the van with merchandise and we were going to take it to the store because that's something we probably would have done. But he never would pick me up from the school. He'd wait for me to get to the store or home or whatever and tell me to go to the store. So he picks me up and we're in Rupert at the time. I was at Minico at my high school. Picks me up. We drive to Jerome, Idaho, which is like 35, 40 minutes from the school. And we get to this house, and I know the house because it was one of my dad's friend that ran a dairy farm. My dad honks, and I look over, and Mr. Para, who ran the dairy farm, opens up the door. He waves. My dad's all, "Get off," and I'm like, "Okay." And I'm thinking like I'm gonna go get some boxes of something. So I get off, close the door. My dad takes off, and I was like, I remember seeing like, "What the hell?" And I walk up to him and I'm like waiting for him. Like, I don't even remember what I was thinking, but I was like, my dad's going to be coming back. So I'm going to get some boxes or something. My dad's like, and Mr. Pata was like, "So your dad said you don't want to go to school no more." Yeah. I was like, yeah, I'm kind of done with school. He's like, "Cool. We're going to put you to work." And I was like, "All right." And, being that young, dumb kid, I'm like, he's like, "I'm going to put you to work at the dairy farm." I'm like, "All right." And I'm thinking like, oh, these guys make some pretty decent money. I remember that. And so he's like, "Hey, this is your room. That's where you're going to sleep at and stuff." He gave me the schedule and stuff. You're getting at 5 a.m. You'll be running this shift and stuff. And so like the first couple of days I remember going and it was work. Like, putting on the machines on the dairy, getting all the cows out of the I don't know what it's called, but where they have them all. And I remember like, oh, man, this sucked. And I remember being there for almost 3 weeks because I remember asking Mr. Spot, I said, "Hey, like, when do we get paid?" And he was like, "Oh, we got paid last Friday, every 2 weeks." I'm like, "All right." And I'm like, "So when do I get my check?" He's like, You already used it." He's like, "You paid for your rent? You've been eating, right?" He's like, "You've had everything you needed?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You paid for it." Shoot, man. And I remember just instantly being like, this freaking sucks. And that night I called my dad and said, "Hey, I want to go back to school." He's like, "Cool, I'll go pick you up." Picked me up. And like, that was for me a time where I was like, man, my dad gave me a rough lesson. I'm sure my mom was like, "You're not sending him off," but I'm so grateful for that, that my dad did that for me, man. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those lessons, dads have a way of teaching you that. That's cool. My dad, he called the cops for Nampa PD when he found cigarettes on me. And they come out to the house and they're like, "All right, you want us to like scare him or like, what?" He's like, "No, write him a ticket. Write him the full ticket you can and make him appear at court." So they gave me like a $180 ticket. And then I had to go to Canyon County, go to court. And the judge is like, "Mr. Sidwell, what do you want us to do with your son?" And he's like, "Throw the book at him." They gave me like a $180 ticket and then 25 hours of community service. So for like 5 Sundays in a row, I had to go and down to the courthouse and pick up bullet casings at their shooting range or go pick up trash, whatever. But kudos to him. Like it was a shitty situation, but I've never smoked, so I've ate a cigarette too. Like that wasn't the funnest, but I mean, it's those things that like, they have a way of teaching it. It's crazy. It's like but it's the person that has to decide that, right? Like your dad and your mom could tell you like, don't drop out of school, but until you made that decision, you got to be the one to make that decision. And that's where I think good leadership comes in, is making them make the decision themselves rather than telling them, and they can see the value of what you're trying to tell them.
Yep. Yeah, for sure, man.
But well, Dago, I really appreciate coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, dude.
I learned a lot.
Yeah, it's cool.
All right, dude. We'll have it on again, and then we'll make some videos out of this.
Yeah, cool, brother. Appreciate you.
Have a good one.